The latest news, national issues, the political scene, and conversations with prominent personalities. All these firsthand at the forefront. Former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo is questioning the validity of the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte last Tuesday. He raised concerns of sovereignty and jurisdiction and violations of due process. Attorney Panelo filed a petition with the Supreme Court on behalf of FPRRD's daughter, Veronica Kitty Duterte, that sought a writ of habeas corpus to compel authorities to bring her father back to the Philippines. Are these legal maneuvers a little too late now that the former president just landed in Netherlands? With us this morning, live at the BNC studio, is former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, Attorney Salvador Panelo. Good morning, Attorney Sal.
Good morning, Karen.
Let's start first with the arrest of former President Duterte. How do you feel about the manner in which the former president was arrested?
It's illegal because from the time he landed, he was arrested and he was not shown a warrant of arrest. That's one omission, fatal omission. He was only shown a soft copy of the warrant of arrest, so-called, when he was at the Bilyonaryo Air Base. And then he was illegally detained after several hours. He was plucked out from the dinner forcibly and brought to the plane. Practically, he was kidnapped and thrown out.
But is there kidnapping if he voluntarily
He did.
also...
Of course, he was not. He was against it. He was resisting, in fact. It was against his will.
Was he given the opportunity to at least get clothes? Because from my point of view, when I saw that there were already, you have General Torre there waiting, and former President Duterte was coming straight from a flight out of Hong Kong. And for me, personally, one of the first things I thought about was, coming from that flight, tapos straight to being held in custody. May pagkakataon ba siya, una kahit maligo man lang, kumuha ng mga damit, and of course for his age, maintenance medicines, and just the bare necessities like toothbrush, the things that you need for sanitation. Paano ba? Wala.
None. Anything of what you said. Wala yun. Basta pagdating niya, inaresto siya.
So yung suot po ni former President Duterte from the time dumating siya sa Hong Kong, yun na yun.
Yun na yun.
Hanggang papunta
Yes.
na ng Hague.
Yun na yun.
Walang pagkakataon na
Wala.
mag-impake.
Wala eh. Hindi nga yung mga sumalubong na abogado, hindi pinapasok eh. Pati ako nga eh, di ba? I arrived in Hong Kong, here from Hong Kong, mga 1:15. Dumiretso ako sa Bilyonaryo. Twice ako nag-attempt. Wala, talagang ayaw nila. Si isang abogado, Atty. Bello, nakaabang na sa airport. Hindi pinapasok. Yung senador, hindi pinapasok. Di ba si Bongo? Yung anak, vice presidente, hindi rin pinapasok. This is worse than martial law. It's not, yung sinasabi ni Presidente, looming dictatorship, given the circumstances of what we are seeing now, that we are leading to dictatorship. Hindi lang leading. This is martial law. And this is worse than it. Because during our time, Karen, if you remember, kaming mga abogado o tayo, we could see our clients anytime, anywhere, any detention center, not this government.
So are you saying former President Duterte was not given the right to counsel when he was held in custody?
Of course he was not.
Mag-isa lang po siya doon.
Nag-iisa lang siya doon.
And in this case, our government keeps pointing to just the cooperation with Interpol. But who is really responsible for the manner in the way the arrest was conducted?
Siyempre, di yung gobyerno. Ang Interpol has no authority to make arrests.
Was there someone from Interpol there?
I don't know. Paano nga natin malalaman? Hindi nga kami makapasok. Teka muna, let's begin from the very beginning. Unang-una, walang jurisdiction ng ICC. So sinasabi nila, the Interpol, ang parang enforcement agency, which is wrong. Kasi yung Interpol, ang kanyang trabaho lang ay to facilitate the arrest ng isang tao. Kasi they're all over the world. So pag merong gustong ipa-aresto, sila magsasabi, oh, nandito. But, by itself, it cannot do anything. It has to request. So, anong nangyari dyan? ICC requested Interpol to effect the arrest. But it cannot do that by itself. So, Interpol requested the government to do it.
And that's fundamental in sovereignty, the principle of
yan ang
sovereignty.
sinasabi ngayon ng gobyerno. Ini-request kami, excuse me, ICC has no jurisdiction. Authorizing an agent, are you telling me that the agent has more authority than the principal that has no jurisdiction? Mali sila doon. Kaya nga nag-request eh. Pag nag-request, you can deny it, decline.
And there's something that I want to understand here. There was a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC, but yes, we have withdrawn from the ICC, so they have no authority to enter the Philippines without the cooperation of the Philippine government. But also there's a red notice of the Interpol. But what is the nature of a red notice?
Yun nga, sinabi ko kanina, red notice is to request this government na kung pa pwede tulungan sila na i-arresto ito kasi may request itong ICC sa kanila. Eh yung nagre-request nga, walang jurisdiction eh. Pero alam mo, we have to go back to the jurisdiction from the very beginning.
Yeah, actually I want to talk about that because
hindi, kailangan kasi yun ang unahin mo.
Yung principle of complementarity is the basis of jurisdiction.
Hindi lang yun. The basis of jurisdiction is whether this country of ours will allow any foreign country to come in.
Yes, and that goes into the principle of sovereignty.
And under this government, in our country, as you know, you're a lawyer, before a law is or becomes effective, it has to see the light of the day. Meaning, it has to be published in the official gazette. Because people have the right to know exactly what are crimes that we will be committing that will put at risk to be being incarcerated. Kaya nga sinasabi ng Civil Code, no law will be enforced unless it is published in the official gazette. From the very beginning, sinasabi ni Presidente Duterte, wala kayong jurisdiction sa akin, sa amin. Kasi hindi naman lumabas sa official gazette. In fact, nung nag-meeting kami sa Malacanang, lahat kami abogado, lahat sila, si Duterte lang nagsabi na walang jurisdiction kasi hindi lumabas sa official gazette. At sabi ng mga abogado nun, Sir, may international treaty tayo na niratify ng Senado. Kaya may jurisdiction sila, miyembro tayo. Ako hindi ako umimik. Nung tumingin sa akin si Presidente, parang tinatanong niya sa akin, anong tingin mo? Sabi ko, yun lang ba ang problema niyo? Na may jurisdiction? O, edi mag-withdraw.
So yun yung
kaya
pinanggalingan.
Kaya nangyari yung withdrawal. Yeah. Ako ang nag-advise noon. Ako rin ang gumawa ng memorandum na pinirmahan niya. Ngayon, tingnan mo na. So, walang jurisdiction. Assuming na nagkaroon. Dahil nga, sinasabi nila.
Yeah, that they
na-ratify.
started.
Nag-withdraw na nga eh. So, paano magkakaroon ng jurisdiction?
Well, one of the provisions in the Rome Statute is when the matter was taken under consideration. So I know that's contentious and that will probably be part of the determination at The Hague, whether there was really, whether the matter was taken into consideration before we withdrew from the ICC.
Sinasabi nila, meron kayong obligasyon eh. In fact, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, obiter dictum lang to may residual obligation kasi sinasabi ng Rome Statute na pag nag-withdraw kayo at naumpisa na yung investigasyon, you are obligated to cooperate. Teka muna. Unang-una nga, from the very start nga, wala kayong jurisdiction dahil hindi naman kayo na-enforce eh. O ipagpalagay na natin na meron kayong jurisdiction na dahil because of the treaty, nag-withdraw na kami. You're now saying na, hindi, under our statute, alam mo, binasa ko yung statute nila eh. Ang nakalagay doon, kung nag-start ang investigasyon, di ba? Teka muna, anong investigation ba? Pag sinabi mong preliminary investigation, ang mangyayari dyan, pareho ng atin, isa-summon mo, you have to respond, magkakaroon kayo ng due process na tinatawag. Yung sinasabi nilang nag-imbestiga umpisa, Karen, hindi yun yung preliminary investigation proper. that is being contemplated under their own statute. Ano yun? That was a preliminary examination to determine whether or not it can come in under the principle of complementarity. Kaya yun muna tinignan nila. Natatanda mo, nagkaroon nga ng communication between the government through the Solgen.
Yes, actually.
Diba? Ayaw nila. Sabi niya, teka muna, wag muna kayo pumasok.
Yeah.
Kasi malakas ang aming legal system. In fact, I criticize the Solgen. Sabi ko, tingnan mo yung, ang principal sinasabing, wala kayong jurisdiction. Ito naman mga alter ego, kung ano-anong pinapile. Kako, you're admitting jurisdiction. Diba?
At that time,
Binanatan ko sila doon.
Yeah, but I want to go back to this principle of complementarity because it is essential as well in order to determine the jurisdiction of the ICC. But back in September 8, 2022, the Philippine government had a submission to the ICC, and this was already under this current administration because this was in September 2022. And in paragraph 31, it said that the Philippine government has sufficiently established ongoing national proceedings with respect to alleged crimes committed throughout the Philippines between July 2016 and March 2019 in the context of the so-called War on Drugs campaign, warranting the continuous deferral to the state's investigation. So in this case, our own government at that time, September 2022, under this current administration, was asserting that they had ongoing investigations that would require the ICC to defer because under, again, as you said, complementarity, if we had a functioning judicial system, then the ICC can't come in. And then later on, March 2023, DOJ Secretary Boying Rimulya gave a speech in the UN Human Rights Council wherein he declared that the Philippines has a fully functioning judicial system. And to quote him, he said, under the complementarity test, the ICC therefore has no jurisdiction over Filipino citizens whatsoever. So what changed from that time? Because after this speech, there were even Quadcom hearings. So kung meron tayong issue on complementarity, it seems like this current government has been consistent as well in asserting that we have a functioning judicial system.
Then suddenly, there is a reversal.
And then suddenly, they're the ones cooperating for the arrest. So what is your take on this from the legal perspective?
Hindi legal. It's political from the very beginning. I've been saying, yung gobyerno, yung mga nandyan ngayon sa kapangyarihan, they want to perpetuate themselves in power. The only stumbling block is BP Sara, who's the leading presidential candidate in 2028. And the one supporting him is the million following people, ang idol nila si Duterte. These two have to be eliminated. Kaya may impeachment, may criminal charges, and ngayon may ICC. Yan, ginagamit lang nila lahat yan para ma-eliminate mo yung walang legal dito, political lang. Kasi from the very beginning, alam mo, natatawa nga ako, yung mga sinasabing mga legal experts, kung ano-anong pinag-uusapan natin sa statute, wala nga jurisdiction eh. From the very beginning, ano bang pinag-uusapan natin? Yun ang pinaka-basic. Ang ICC walang jurisdiction. So lahat ng ginawa nito in relation to the Philippine government and the citizens ay lahat illegal. So wala ka nang pag-uusap. Illegal lahat yan. Fake
so, ngayong illegal po, ayan ang contention ninyo. What remedies are you considering? You've gone to the Supreme Court?
Yan nga eh. That's precisely, we went to the Supreme Court. Sinasabi naman sa Korte Suprema, illegal po ang ginawa nila dito sa Presidente. Halos kinidnap na nga ang ginawa nila. Kaya kung maaari lang po, under our rules, meron kayong kapangyarihan na orderin ng gobyerno na papuntahin dito ang Presidente ngayon. Umalis na. Kaya sinasabi na, mutin academic na yan. Hindi po, hindi ako naniniwala mutin academic. Bakit? An illegal act committed by you or by this government follows it or you wherever you go. Sapagat illegal yung ginawa mo kay Duterte, ang ginamit mo pang eroplano, registered pa rito sa Pilipinas, di may jurisdiction pa rin. Yung kasama niya, mga pulis.
Ng Pilipinas.
Ng Pilipinas. Madalit sabi, palaging sumasama sa'yo yung maling ginawa mo. Kaya pag sinabi nila Di ba, papatawagin ka ng Korte Suprema kasi may habeas corpus. Nasaan si Duterte? Sir, sorry, Your Honors, sinurrender na namin. Hindi na namin may babalik. Hindi. You created that act of surrendering. Your job is to bring him here. Regardless of what you're going to do. Ikaw ang gumawa ng mali, i-correct mo yung mali mo yan. Wala kaming pakialam kung saan mo dinala. Dalhin mo sa amin yan. Yan
So
ang sinasabi ko na may
theoretically,
jurisdiction.
this is something that the Supreme Court can do as a remedy. But do you think they will be able to do it? Because you already said that a lot of this is political. So all our discussions on legal principles, on doctrines, may not apply when it comes to the political side.
It may not apply with respect do sa ginagawa nila kay Presidente dahil political. But the Supreme Court comes in because it is mandated by the Constitution to decide on issues involving rights of citizens and institutions. Hindi pa pwede. Kaya ang magiging nila, kasi ang habeas corpus is, yung writ is directed to the government, produce the body, and explain to us the legality of the detention of the prisoner. Yan eh. Pag sinabi, sir, wala na, hindi. You created your own problem. Gawan mo ng paraan yan. Wala kaming pakialam.
So you're
kung
confident that the Supreme Court can
Hindi
fulfill
lang
its
can,
role?
it should.
It should, yes. But
Not only it can,
again,
it has the authority
if
under
this
the
is
Constitution.
political, you're not worried that there can be political pressure on the Supreme Court?
Well, palagi merong political pressure, but I always believe, itong mga justices, meron silang term of office. Sila'y inappoint dahil sila'y men and women of integrity. And I think they will follow that line.
And just yesterday, the Supreme Court denied the temporary restraining order that was initially applied for on behalf of former President Duterte. A TRO is a special remedy. So what is your take on this denial?
Kasi sinasabi ng Supreme Court na it appears that there is no clear and unmistakable right being violated. O ibig sabihin, kulang ang ebidensya. Madali sabi, kaya kailangan mag-argue muna tayo. Magbigay kayo ng mga ebidensya. It doesn't mean na walang right. No clear as of this time.
Yeah.
Kaya nga sinet for arguments, kaya nga pinapacomment eh. Okay, naging buti na academic ang TRO kasi wala nang i-resign, nakaalis na.
Yes, totoo,
Kaya, pero
yeah.
yung habeas corpus, ang purpose nun, dalin mo. Dalin mo yung dinitain mo, inaresto mo, at ngayon tinanggal mo. Dalin mo sa amin.
So the denial of the TRO in no way weakens your petition for habeas corpus, in your opinion?
Kasi ang sinasabi niya, illegal nga yung pag-aresto. Kasi palagi kang babalik sa jurisdiction ng ICC. Walang pakialam ang... We are a free, independent country. We have our own sovereignty. Itong gobyerno, sa halip na bigyan ng proteksyon ng mamamayan, instead of protecting its own citizen, sinurrender pa. Diyos ko naman. Wala na nga jurisdiction. Ikaw na nga nagsasabi, no jurisdiction, we have a functioning, robust legal system. Tapos sinuko mo dahil lang nag-request ang isang walang may jurisdiction. Ano ba yan?
And dun sa pagkausap niyo po kay Kitty kahapon, how is she? Are they able to talk to former President Duterte?
Hindi ko siya nakausap kahapon. Nakausap ko siya when we filed, the night before we filed, nung kinidnap na nga nila si Presidente Duterte, she had to go to the office to sign the petition. At dumating nga pati yung kanyang ina. At umiiyak sila. They narrated to us the harrowing experience they experienced. Halos nasaktan sila doon. Kasi nakita naman sa video, di ba? Nagkaroon ng scaffold. Kaya sabi nila, ang grabe.
Totoo po bang merong encounter? Because she was showing on social media na yung suot niyang blouse ay nagkapunit po.
Ay, kasi nga, gusto niya pumunta sa tatay niya, pinipigilan siya. O, di siyempre, nagkaroon ng scaffold, kaya napunit.
But in this case, we also heard that President Duterte was supposed to undergo some medical procedures. And paano po yun? Is the family worried about the health of the former president?
Now that you mentioned that, the government, the palace, is saying that it is not true that we did not give medical attention to the former president. Meron kaming doktor doon. Alam mo, yan ang hirap sa kanila. Ang tanong ko sa inyo, the man is sick. He was supposed to be brought to the hospital kahapon. Kaya siya dumating the day before. In fact, ang sumalubong sa kanya, may doktor. Nandun sa airport, merong ambulansya. May sakit yung tao. Tanong ko sa kanya, did you bring him to the hospital? No. The answer is no. Was he examined by a competent doctor in a hospital full of medical equipment? Kasi kailangan mo yan. Titingnan mo yung tao. Pwede ba yung mga paganong-ganong ka lang, blood pressure? Hindi yun. Kailangan kumpleto. Hindi rin. Another question. Did you give him the prescribed medicine na kailangan niya? May maintenance yun eh. Wala. O, paano mo sasabihin? Anong klaseng treatment ang ginawa niyo? Gusto niyo patayin yung tao.
So,
Gusto niyo i-eliminate talaga. Politically, legally, or physically.
Paano po ngayon, meron po bang magdadala ng mga gamot ni PRRD?
Hopefully, ganun na mangyayari. Kasi wala sandala.
And is there any hope na makasama po niya yung mga anak niya? I know that there are also reports that Vice President Sara and
Nandun na.
Paolo is already there. Pwede ba nilang makita?
Ay, siguro naman. Dahil lahat naman ng bilanggo, di ba, entitled to visits. Kaya nandun si Inday Sara kasi kailangan niyang bumuo ng legal team. Hindi naman po pwede tayo mga abogado pupunta ron kung hindi naman tayo lisensyado doon. Di ba? Yeah. There are certain rules sa ICC. Kaya kukunin niya yung mga abogado nagpa-practice doon.
Yeah. And one of the people that accompanied former President Duterte is former Executive Secretary Bingbong Medialdea. And now that he has arrived in Netherlands, it is part of the reports here that he has no visa, so he had to request for the help of the Philippine Embassy. Pero 15 days lang daw yung binigay na visa.
Kaya most likely, babalik yun dito.
Bakit po ang ikli lang ng binigay na visa?
Ay, hindi natin alam yan. Kung yan ang rules nila, ano magagawa natin?
But because before, when we apply for EU visa, sometimes it can be as long as
Hindi, nagbibigay naman ng visa ang Netherlands, hindi naman
exactly.
ang Pilipinas.
No, Netherlands sometimes, or EU in general, mas mahaba. But you have no idea na bakit maikli
Hindi ko alam. Tsaka pwede naman na-extend yun eh. Di ba? You can always ask for extension.
So now, ano po ang plano ng pamilya? Because this comes at a time na magkakaroon din ng elections. And former President Duterte is running for mayor of Davao. Paano po yung
wala,
campaign
kandidato pa rin siya. Kahit na wala siya rito.
Yeah, and this is not a ground for disqualification because sa atin naman,
definitely.
It has to be like conviction by final judgment, and there is no conviction in this case.
Basta sa akin, Karen, ang mahalaga, ang posisyon ng gobyerno walang jurisdiction. And yet, pinayagan nila, in fact, hindi pinayagan lang. Sila mismo umaresto ng isang institusyon na sinasabi nila wala kayong jurisdiction sa amin. Ginagamit nila ang Interpol. Ang Interpol pinakiusapan lang ng ICC. Bakit susunod ka doon sa pinakiusapan ng sinasabi mong walang jurisdiction? The principle has no jurisdiction. Necessarily, if Interpol is an agent, it has no jurisdiction.
But when it comes to conducting an arrest in accordance with a red notice, which is a request for an independent, like sovereign, to conduct an arrest on behalf of the Interpol, is there a process within the Philippines that should be followed? Should there be a warrant of arrest that should be issued by a court?
All right. Number one, you know this as a lawyer. Domestic laws prevail over international law and international agreement. Kasi ini-invoke nila na, hindi, may agreement tayo dyan sa Interpol. You are committed. Mali kayo dyan. Kasi bago ninyo ibigay ang isang tao, even under extradition law, you have to pass through judicial process. Mag-a-apply ka sa korte. Yung warrant of arrest mo, kailangan malaman ng local court kung valid ba yan. Ano ba yan? Kailangan bigyan mo rin ng pagkakataon yung dinidemanda mo, tatanggalin mo. Hindi nila ginawa lahat yun, kaya nga illegal. Yan ang sinasabi ko. Pag illegal yung institution, sa akin, as far as I'm concerned, illegal silang institution as far as we are concerned in this country because wala nga kayong jurisdiction eh. So lahat ng ginagawa nyo, lahat yan ay illegal. Kahit na anong gawin pa nila, kahit itong gobyerno, illegal din ang gagawin ito pag sumunod ka sa request na yan.
So, Secretary Sal, what can we expect from this case? Are you confident that all the issues that you raise about the illegality of the arrest, of the warrant, or even the lack of jurisdiction is something that can be resolved here in the Philippines? Or is there also an opportunity to raise this in The Hague?
Alam mo, tanong mo, do I have confidence? Kung ako ang justice, kung ako magdi-decide, given all the facts and the circumstances and the law, talagang dapat pabalikin mo ang presidente. Pero hindi naman tayo magdi-decide sila. So, we will leave it to them. But masyadong clear naman ho yan. Walang jurisdiction. So, pag walang jurisdiction ng isang entity, lahat ng ginawa yan dito sa ating bansa, illegal ho lahat yan. And the government cannot justify it, cannot validate an illegal act from the very beginning. At kung may ginawa ang gobyerno ng mali, yan pong kamalian na yan, yung illegality yan, nakayakap na sa kanya kahit saan siya magpunta.
And what do you think is China's role in this? China's foreign ministry spokesperson Mao Ning recently gave a statement and she said the ICC should strictly follow the principle of complementarity, exercise its functions and powers prudently in accordance with the law, and prevent politicization or double standards.
Tama naman, di ba? Pati si Truman nga, di ba? Sinasanction nga ICC, hindi na binibigyan ng kontribusyon. Kasi pinupolitika. Pinagpipilitan kasi nila na pumasok, pinakikialaman nila yung mga bansa kahit na hindi sang-ayon doon sa complementarity rule. Yan ang problema.
So you meant President Trump?
Yes,
Yes.
President Trump.
Kayo po ba ay susunod din sa Hague? And what is your message to former President Duterte?
Alam mo, ang problema diyan sa gusto ko man pumunta ron, ano naman gagawin ko doon? Ang mangyayari doon, mag-observe lang ako. At saka, yung moral support. Pero baka mas kailangan ako dito sa Pilipinas to articulate yung defense naman itong Presidente Duterte. Kasi ang mangyayari sa'yo doon, huwag mong papakialaman siyempre yung mga abogado. Abogado doon. Bibigay ka lang ng mga insights. Pero mas maganda siguro na dito tayo, tulungan natin si Presidente Duterte. Dito. Sa akin, ang remedyo, isa lang yan. Either Supreme Court na may remedyo dyan, o ang sambayan ng Pilipino. This government is created by the Filipino people. The primary function of a government is to serve and to protect. If this government no longer protects and serves the interests of the Filipino people that created it, then this sovereign people has the right to what? Siyempre, kailangan palitan mo na yung gobyerno niya.
Are you worried for former President Duterte in terms of his health? You mentioned kanina na dapat may procedure siya at may maintenance medicine.
Kasi tingnan mo, doon ako nakita mo, tinawagan siya ng anak niya may video call sila Nakita mo itsura ni Presidente. Ang payat-payat niya, pale na pale siya. Kaya talagang, I'm really apprehensive sa kanyang health condition. Lalo pa kung hindi natin alam ngayon kung ano ba maintenance niya. Kasi pag hindi mo maintenance mo regularly, baka magka-apekto sa sistema ng katawan mo.
Well, he has a video that he released this morning saying na okay naman ako. At he was also saying na sinasabi niya na ito na yun, na yung tungkol sa enforcement ng law na sinabi niya na dati sa mga police.
Niya,
Oo. But he did say dito na, ito na yung sinasabi ko nga, na for all of whatever happened in the past, ako na yung nag-front sa ating law enforcement, pati military. So do you think, sa pagkakausap niyo po kay former President Duterte, he's ready to face whatever are the consequences of his anti-drug war?
Ever since, kung titingnan mo yung demeanor ni Presidente Duterte, kahit na nung mayor pa yan, congressman niya, hindi naman nabago yung style niya. Sa kanya, as far as he's concerned, wala siyang agenda eh. Inihalal niya akong mayor, inihalal niya akong congressman, inihalal niya ako ng presidente. Kung ano yung sinumpang ko gagawin ko, regardless kahit na kayo mag-agree sa akin o hindi. Kaya, tamo yung style niya ngayon. Nagkakagulo, pero siya, cool lang. I'm resigned to my fate. If what I did, sa tingin niyo, dapat ako makulong dito, mamatay ako dito, di bahala na kayo.
Ano po ang message nyo kay PRRD ngayon at sa pamilya niya?
Eh, kay PRD, wala akong message sa kanya kasi kilala ko na siya. Siya ay nakahanda na talaga. Sa pamilya naman, siyempre nalulungkot sila. Siyempre nagdaramdam sila. Eh, ang sabi ko sa mag-ina, be strong. Mahabang labanan to. Talagang ganyan ang buhay. Kaya ang mga kababayan naman natin, eh kayo ang naglukluk sa mga taong ito sa kapangyarihan. At kayo rin ang may kapangyarihan na tanggalin sila. Pero gawin nyo sa mapayapang paraan. Yan ang sinasabi ko. Get out, go to the streets, but in a peaceful manner. You have to show you are against what this government is doing peacefully. And that is your right. Yan ang panawagan ko. Lumabas ho kayo. Hindi pa pwede yung puro lang tayo text. Hindi pa pwede yung puro lang tayo social media. Lumabas kayo sa kalye, pero gawin yung mapayapa. Don't give this government a reason to do violence to you. Gawin nyo lang na mapayapa. Maniwala kayo. Pag nakita ng puwersa ng Pilipinas o ng sandatang lakas na itong gobyernong ito ay wala nang suporta sa taong bayan, palagay ko sila mismo sasabihin sa gobyerno, sorry po, mukhang wala nang suporta sa inyong taong bayan. Paano ba yan?
Thank you so much, Attorney Sal Panelo, and good luck with the petition for habeas corpus.
No, good luck to this government because what it is doing may be the start of its fall.
Very strong. And thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we will have MMDA's Viral Special Operations Head, Gabriel Go, when At the Forefront returns after a short break. Welcome back at the Forefront. And now we have someone known for his firm and disciplined enforcement of road regulations. MMDA's Gabriel Go has gained public attention through his viral clearing operations. With a no-nonsense approach, operations have sparked both praise and criticism from motorists and vendors affected by his strict implementation. How does this level of enforcement transform urban discipline and public perception of authority? We have with us the MMDA Head of Special Operations Group, Gabriel Go. Good morning, Chief Gabby.
Good morning po. It's an honor to be here, and I'm so excited also to be here.
Well, we're very excited to have you here. So first, tell us about you from a personal level. How did growing up in Binondo shape your perspective of discipline and order?
Well, Binondo, as we all know, is a very highly developing place in Metro Manila. Although urban planning is quite an issue, especially we know the narrow roads, almost close to none sidewalks. So in my experience and perspective growing up in this kind of place, I can say that I'm very open to the scenario of what is happening not only in Binondo, not only in Manila, but all throughout Metro Manila. So I think it's a very good place wherein my eyes was opened to the reality that it's not just about implementation of the rules of traffic rules and regulations. It has a lot of things to do. You have to jumble a lot of things. You have to jumble with economic advancement, businesses, urban planning. So those are just a few of the stuffs that you have to jumble when it comes to improvements and traffic rules and regulations.
So you understand na yung mga, for example, sidewalk vendors, talagang kailangan din sila from an economic perspective or sila mismo, nangangailangan talaga sila na magbenta?
Well, of course. Lagi namin sinasabi, no, hindi masamang maghanap buhay. Everyone needs to make a living. Everyone has to do something para mayroong pagkain maiuwi sa kanilang mga pamilya. But then again, at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, is the business that we are doing, meron bang nakakahambalang? Are we causing any inconvenience? Are there any rules and regulations that we are breaking? But yes, I have to agree, no? Vendors or yung mga naghahanap buhay, hindi naman natin pwedeng totally to eliminate them. We go anywhere in Asia, there are vendors on the streets. But what sets them apart? There is rules and regulations that are being followed. There are certain measures being regulated by the government.
And let's go back to your upbringing. You grew up in Binondo. Ikaw ba, are there stereotypes about Chinoys that you notice and that you feel that you have to break?
Well, I've been hearing things, no? Sinasabi nga nila, you're a Chinoy. What are you doing in government? But ang perspective ko lang naman dito is there anything wrong? I am a citizen of this country. I was born and raised here. I was educated here. So, I am a Filipino, di ba? And what is wrong with different cultural background or even heritage serving in government? So, I think that's one stereotype or one issue that we have to break because there are a lot of Chinoys who are in government.
Yeah.
Not only me in public service, but there are a lot of people or a lot of Chinoys who are in public service nowadays.
Well, I suppose when they say that, is the criticism coming from fellow Chinoys also who, maybe their perception of government is that a lot of people will say that from private sector, oh, it's inefficient, it's corrupt, so bakit ka nandyan? Because even for me coming from private sector, when I served in government, I was asked that question, bakit ka pumayag na mag-government? Baka ganun naman yung context.
Marami tayong narinig na ganun, no? What are you doing in public service? You've been in the private sector for how many years? I took up consular and diplomatic affairs. So it's a totally long way out of my supposedly career path. But then again, no, let's ask ourselves this. If we are given a chance, if we are given the opportunity to serve in public, to help people at least in our own little ways, what's stopping us? Diba? I mean, we can be from a different cultural heritage, we can be from different backgrounds, we could be a businessman or even, let's say, a different profession. But if given the chance, why not? I mean,
So now you're there.
Yes.
But Chinoys are also known to be very hardworking, like from the Chinese culture.
True.
Kaya sila yung kilalang magaling sa business. How do you bring in that part of your heritage to be effective in government?
Siguro one thing that we can be something that stands out in the crowd. Ang mga Chinoys kasi are not only very passionate, but also we have this close family orientation ties. That's why kung mapapansin mo, how I run things, especially in my unit, in the Special Operations Group, I don't treat them just as personnels or traffic enforcers. I treat them as a small family in this government sector in which we are partaking our service to the people. So, isa yan sa tingin kong pinakamagandang characteristics is in order for people or our men to be efficient, you have to treat them deeper, hindi lang as tauhan mo. Di ba?
Oo. And kanina you mentioned that when it comes to enforcing rules, you have to juggle so many things, including economic considerations, but also the rules themselves. So, how do you respond to people who say that MMDA's clearing operations are too harsh or even heartless?
Well, one quote that I can borrow, the law is harsh, but it is the law.
Yeah.
Diba? But then again, at the end of the day,
Dura lex sed lex. That's
Correct.
a principle talaga.
Principle.
Even when I was a law student, umpisa pa lang.
Yes.
Natutunan na namin yung Latin phrase for
true.
that. Yeah.
But then again, ito ang tingnan natin. If there are no laws to follow, then we'll be in a lawlessness state, di ba? Paano ang organizations, paano ang mga pag-aayos natin sa kalsada? Ito na lang, the mere fact that a lot of people are asking for pagbabago. Gusto ng pagbabago sa kalsada, napaka-traffic, walang malakaran. But then again, you are very hesitant or even complacent to the point na ayaw natin sumunod sa mga simple traffic rules and regulations. And the most basic, ang bangketa ay para sa tao. So, the law may be harsh, but yung nag-i-implement, tao may puso pa rin. So there are considerations that can be given, but not to the extent that is being abused.
Are there other laws that you think need to be revised or changed in order to be less harsh, in your observation? Kasi as from the enforcement side, I completely understand. Kung ano yung law, you just have to enforce it because
True.
it's not your job to legislate. In your observation so far, meron bang mga kailangang baguhin na dahil sa experience mo na, o nga no, masyadong harsh to or...
If we're gonna think of it, no, yung mga batas na pinapatupad natin, like for example, yung mga towing, illegal parking violations, are already very considerate, to be honest. You go to other countries, illegal parking will cost you tens or 20,000 of pesos if you convert it.
At ang bilis. Like,
Diba?
iwanan mo lang, 5 minutes, meron
True.
ka na
Saka-
ticket and talagang...
Pag may violation ka ng illegal parking, let's put it in European countries, it will cost you 25,000 pesos to 30,000 pesos when converted. Dito sa atin, magkano lang? Pag may lisensya at attended ito, 1,000 pesos. Pag walang lisensya, unattended, 2,000 pesos. So, if we're gonna put it into context, no, our law is very comprehensive. Makatao ang batas natin. It's just that, masyado tayo naging lenient in the implementation. And on the other hand, hindi lang lenient on the implementation, but also the lack of information and re-education sa mga tao.
Why is it important for you to record and share your videos of your clearing operations?
Okay. I've been hearing issues na sinasabi, you post it on social media just for popularity-wise. No. Yung iba naman sinasabi, baka minomonetize mo ang pinopost mo. If you want to check my TikTok account, it's not even being monetized. The purpose of why we are sharing our operations, we are sharing our day-to-day activities, is for the mere re-education of the people. And nakakatuwa. Kasi I personally read the comments. It's just that some messages are, well, hindi naman some, but too many messages already na I cannot read all of them. But nakakatuwa yung comments. Sir, nakakatuwa kasi ang dami naming natututunan. So, people are using this channel, using the social media platform to re-educate themselves. And nakakatuwa rin, we meet people on the road, tatawagin kami, Sir, good job. Ngayon, alam na namin, bawal pala pumarada sa gantong areas. Or, Sir, kailangan pala, no, there's certain provisions of 1.5 meters for a sidewalk. Ito pa nakakatuwa. Some people texted me, messaged me on social media, Sir, nag-umpisa na po kami ayusin yung garahe namin kasi lumagpas pala kami. So, it's beginning to be a platform not just for showcasing our activities, but we are slowly educating people.
So in your experience, a lot of people who violate regulations on where to park or where to situate themselves when they're selling, it's really a lack of education pala. Parami sa kanila hindi lang aware na bawal pala to.
True. Lack of education plus information dissemination. Why? A lot of violators will tell us, Sir, wala naman po kasi nagsabi. Binigyan kami ng business permit, pinayagan kami magbenta. That's it. Pero if you read the provisions of the permit, andoon ang guidelines na nakalagay.
Pero yan yung mga fine print eh. Minsan pag binigyan ka permit, basta nakalagay doon, you're allowed to operate.
True.
Hindi mo nababasahin yung fine
True.
print.
That's why, alam mo, one thing that we have to consider also, no, once na there is a authority, or let's say a provision, or let's say a permit that is given to certain aspects, like for example, parking, vending, we have to tell these people, or ang ating mga kababayan, what are the provisions in it? Kasi, sad to say, some meron hindi nakakaintindi ng English. Some hindi nakakaintindi ng Tagalog, di ba? There are certain aspects that we have to consider. That's why it's very important for us to disseminate the information properly, constant reminder, and we have to educate them. Yun ang 3 key points that we are looking, or personally that I've seen on the road, na kulang tayo.
Have you ever received death threats because of your work? Because nagte-trending ka, so I'm sure it goes both ways. A lot of people praise you, maraming natutuwa sa ginagawa mo, pero baka naman yung iba rin nagagalit. So, meron bang umaabot sa point na may death threat ka?
Alam mo, in this kind of job, threats are eminent. Marami tayong mga... Well, alam mo, nakakatuwa rin naman kasi, no, a lot of people are slowly beginning to embrace yung ginagawa natin. But then again, at the end of the day, we cannot please everyone. So if you're gonna talk about death threat, saan nyo ba gustong pagpilian? Personal message or comments.
So meron talaga?
Meron yan.
But you're saying it with a smile, kaya nakakatawa ka. But so talagang good that you're ready to take on everything about the job, the good and the bad.
What is funny about these death threats, no? They are using dummy accounts. So, something that, lagi ko rin sinasabi, if you're going to threaten someone, you're not gonna say it out loud. Di ba? So, these are probably keyboard warriors, or probably sinasabi nga ng iba, baka sir, nahuli nyo na to eh. Di ba? So, it's not that I don't take this threat seriously. I do take precautions, but then again, at the end of the day, alam naman natin yung trabaho natin is for the better and for the best. Or I mean, for the good man lang. Diba? So, it's just, sometimes you just have to wake up in the morning and just shrug it off and do what you have to do.
And you focus on your job kahit na
Yes.
may mga ganyan na, and mga difficult na parts of your job that you just have to accept.
It's part of the job.
Oo. Ano yung pinakamahirap na clearing operations that you had to undertake?
Probably the hardest clearing operation would be sidewalk vendors. Kasi iintindihin mo lagi, yung status in life. Ay sabi nga nila, we will not resort to vending on the street or on the sidewalk kung kami ay may kakayanan magrenta. Di ba? These people are, kumbaga, isang kayod, isang tuka eh. They have to earn a living, they have to sell something every day just to buy themselves a kilo of rice. Di ba? A kilo of bigas. Or even ilang grams ng meat, di ba? To bring home to their families. But then again, sinasabi nga namin hindi masama maghanap buhay. It's just that you cannot hamper yung safe passage, especially ng mga pedestrians. So that's something na we tackle every day na medyo, syempre, there are certain times na emotional ang mga tao, iiyakan ka, magpapaliwanag na ito lang po ang hanap buhay namin. Or even the most recent, nagbenta po kami sa bangketa kasi nasa ospital po certain family member. So that's something na mahirap.
Kaya mahirap
intindihin
pala
din.
siya, hindi operationally or logistically, but yung emotional side of it.
Yes.
Ikaw mismo, naawa ka?
Totoo. Alam mo, totoo. Naawa pa ako sa mga taong yan. I mean, sometimes, minsan makakita ako, someone is selling, yung mga abubot lang, di ba? Tapos you have to clear them. Kasi, hinarangan na yung entire bangketa or the entire sidewalk. So, o kung hindi naman, mga perishable goods, mga pagkain. Minsan nga, sinasabi ko, sige na, umalis ka na lang. Ano ba yung binibenta mo? Sir, ganito na lang po. Ako na bibili. Umuwi ka na.
But in your rules ba, pagka-clearing, kailangan nyo i-confiscate yung binibenta?
Case to case. But if you've seen in the past years, ang clearing operation, especially mga illegal obstruction, mga nasa sidewalk, whatever is seen on the sidewalk, it's considered nuisance or it's considered obstruction. So, kino-confiscate lahat yan. But right now, what we are trying to do is to alter the approach a little bit, First time, first warning, tatanggalin namin yung lamesa. I'll leave the, yung mga paninda. Bakit ko iniiwan? Tandaan natin, may puhunan. And hate to accept it, but karamihan ng ating mga kababayan, para kung makakuha ng puhunan na yan, inuutang pa yan minsan. Diba? So, you are already giving them the extra burden of confiscating kung ano man nandoon or even not allowing them to sell on their area. Kukunin mo pa yung paninda. So, parang double, triple burden
So
na
this
yan
is part of the consideration that you say when it comes to
Yes.
enforcement na sa totoo lang, pwede nyo pa nga i-confiscate
Yes.
lahat ng tinitinda nila, but out of consideration,
As much as
inaan nyo na
possible,
lang. Oo.
ayoko mangumpis ka ng paninda. That's why there's first warning, second warning, but on the third warning, if it's way too much already, I have no choice.
pagpabalik-balik.
Pabalik-balik.
Yeah.
But in fairness, I seldom do I encounter people na umaabot ng third time na to the point na kailangan kunin ko na kung ano man yung tinitinda. It's very seldom.
And sa mga Pinoy, Chief Gabby, ang sabi nila, kulang sa disiplina. Marami daw tayong magandang batas, pero enforcement is the problem because kulang naman daw sa disiplina kasi karamihan ng mga Pinoy. What is your comment on that? Do you believe that? And do you think that Filipinos can be better disciplined. They will learn to be more disciplined.
Alam mo, ako, naniniwala ko, anyone, even especially Filipinos, we are very well-versed, maganda ang ating cultural background, traditions. It's just that, yun nga sinasabi ko. The problem does not only rely on the government itself or in the implementation. There is the lack of information dissemination and the education. Diba? Alam naman natin, maraming iba't ibang katayuan sa buhay. But then again, the law applies to everyone. Hindi naman pwedeng ang batas is selective for, let's say, for the middle class only or for the upper class only. Hindi naman po pwedeng ganun eh. Isa ang batas, isa ang provision, it applies to everyone. It's just that on the ground, it is up to the implementer of the law to explain it to them. Kasi once ang mga Pilipino, alam mo ang mga Pilipino, tayong mga Pilipino, no, we're very, kumbaga, idealistic. Di ba? Mahilig tayong, if we need something, gagawa tayo ng paraan. Kailangan natin maghanap buhay, gagawa tayo ng paraan. Di ba?
So resourceful din.
Very resourceful tayo eh. So it's just that we need to guide these people, educate them, tell them what is right, what is wrong, inform them every now and then. We have to be consistent.
Yeah. And I think consistent in application as well because kulang na tayo sa time but the bus lane in EDSA has been used by people who are not supposed to use it, and in the past mayroong mga naging controversial na people in high places, high positions have been using it also not in accordance with the rules. So I at least admire MMDA for being consistent in applying.
Well, in general naman, no, anywhere we go, whether there is a enforcer, may nagbabantay man o wala, if there is a law, we have to follow it. That's why yan ang batas, di ba? I hope in the near future, sooner or later, traffic signs will be enough. Traffic signage will be enough to implement or even to serve as a warning to people. So I hope na magkaroon tayo nung not only just discipline, but self-discipline to implicate kung ano man yung mga dapat nating sundin.
Thank you so much, Chief Gabby, and such a pleasure to have you here today.
Likewise, it's an honor once again.
Thank you. Strict implementation can spark a debate about discipline and order on the streets. Authority, when exercised with force, can either restore order or deepen public division. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news, always stay at the forefront. Join us again tomorrow for meaningful conversations that would help you form an objective personal opinion. This is Attorney Karen Jimeno. Thank you for spending your hour with us.